my system 1-1.
Here we are with another review and how to play of Final Fantasy II. I'm going to be playing it on the Game Boy Advance Dawn of Souls, which is a release of Final Fantasy 1 and 2 together. I reviewed Final Fantasy 1 just last week, so today we're just going to be looking at Final Fantasy 2. For fans of the series, it's very common knowledge that Final Fantasy games are not really sequels, so Final Fantasy 2 has little to almost nothing to do with the original Final Fantasy. Obviously, there are a lot of themes that are carried over. There's a lot of commonalities in like terms, such as like the money is Gil and stuff like that, and spell names and things like that, but the story itself doesn't really have any connection to the original Final Fantasy. And going forward, that's kind of a tradition with the Final Fantasy series. So Final Fantasy 3, 4, 5, and 6 won't have anything to do with each other in terms of like story and characters. Yeah, let's go ahead and load a game. Let me see here. Let's go ahead and load up this. Where is this? Oh, perfect. So we're going to go ahead and this game has a lot of the same menu options in here in the config. So I can turn B button dash on so that like if it's off, then if I'm just walking at normal speed, and then I can hold B button to run. Or if I turn config B button dash on, it'll just automatically run all the time. I don't have to hold down the B button. And then as you can see, the speed of the text that comes out, you can change that right here. So if you put it to 1, it'll just be instant, like that. And then you can change the window colors to be kind of whatever color you want within this RGB settings here. You go a traditional blue. And then of course you can look at your bestiary, which shows you the enemies that you've seen and how many you've defeated, what kind of treasures they drop, things like that. The stats don't really help you per se, but maybe treasure drops would be interesting to know about. Other than that, looks like my party is KO'd. So as traditional RPGs, or I guess a bunch of RPGs do, is you have a party of characters. Interestingly enough, this game's inn system, which you go to get recovered, the amount of gil that it costs to stay at an inn in this game in particular increases as your characters increase in power. So as your HP and MP maxes increase, it'll increase the cost of staying at an inn, which is an interesting concept. I mean, inn fees are never really a big deal in most games, because if you are suffering and you need to rest somewhere and you can't afford the inn, you're kind of screwed. So I think it's good that inn fees normally do stay low. Let's go ahead and just jump into the characters. Oh, I did not get revived. So I guess I forgot, inns do not revive your characters. There should be a specific place to do that. Here we go. So I just gotta leave my characters here, and they'll get revived. And let's see if they get revived with full health or not. They do not. They just get revived 1 HP. There you have it. So when you do start a new game in this Final Fantasy II, you do get to name... Oh, I know what was going on here. What you get to name your main 4 characters. Layla down there is not one of the 4 main characters. She's a guest character. But this will be a good example. So you saw if you saw briefly there, the guild cost was higher, 700 instead of the usual 600 that I paid last time. So you'll see that even charges you that 600 I paid last time was based solely on my main character, where now it's increased based on the other party members. So, as you can see here, my party members do not have levels per se. So, instead, each character has different stats, and what kind of weapon they use increases those stats. So my main character here is like the only one that's been used in battle so far. The other two that are named dead were just left out intentionally to have a sort of a solo character challenge that began here. And then Leela is just a guest character who happens to be in my party at this point in the story. So let's go ahead and get into a battle here. There are random battles as you just walk around on the world map. And as similar to Final Fantasy 1, you just sort of pick your moves for each of your characters all at once, and then they sort of go at each other with the enemies based on character speeds and some other random factors. So spells are even learned differently in this game from the original. But let's go ahead and just do some normal attacks. So these dead characters, the ones that are named dead, don't have any weapons or anything equipped. In fact, looks like the guest character also doesn't have any weapons equipped. These monsters are seeming to run away as they fear my main character alone. And they are unable to hit anything because they are not trained in the way of the fist, I guess. So let's go ahead and see what happens here. I just got money. My characters did not get anything from that. And then, as you explore the game here, I don't know if I can look at my map. I don't know if I even have a... I shouldn't have a map. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe it's like, yes. B and select is a secret command that you input to look at the actual world map. So you can see here, R and plus scroll. There we go. This is the world maps in its in entirety. Anyway, as you oh yeah, I was going to say, as you adventure further and further away from, this is the actual starting location of the game, and as you can sort of venture off a little ways on your own, but if you go too far, you will run into stronger enemies that you maybe can't fight. Let's go ahead and just cast. Oh, that was not what I want to do. But it is interesting to note that you can, in fact, attack yourself, and that is a decision which is useful for certain things, such as how your characters grow. So I mentioned earlier that there are no levels in this game, like no character levels. The reason for that is because... I can't use items on enemies, though. Is because the way that you increase your stats in this game is purely through usage. So, as you take hits, your HP and defense increases. As you give out hits, your attack power will increase. I don't know if they're ever going to be able to hurt each other. But let's go ahead and do an example here. So yeah, my main character is the only one that's been hit by anything, or it's been used in battle in this case. The other characters have been left alone, so they're still at like the original starting state. But if I do something like this and just wipe them out, whoops, it even saves my cursor on what I did last. Do I have any Phoenix Downs? I do have one. Let's go ahead and use that. And then we'll see Dead will should gain some stats because of the hit that she took. Oops. Let's go ahead and have everyone attack the monster here. As you see here, yeah, Dead's, look at that. A bunch of things leveled up here. So my usage skill for fists attacks has gone up, and like my HP and stamina went up. There we go. Here's my other stats. So this is like what it starts with. So your stats only increase as you use them in battle. So like my main character that I'm using here has a bunch of spells that he's used, so his magic has increased. I guess I'm not really sure how to increase agility. But those are the spell levels. Spells also level up as they are used, where your stats just kind of level up as they're used, but they don't have like a meter there telling you when they're going to level up from usage. They just kind of go up a little bit at a time more often. And then there is a right-handed and left-handed designation on all the characters, which is not really a big deal. It's just when you have equipment on, they'll want to equip their stuff in different hands. So if I were to... How do I take things off? Oh. There we go. If I were to put stuff over here... Didn't I have a weapon? I guess she doesn't like any of those weapons. Wait a minute. I want... So yeah, you can dual wield weapons, and then like you can... Do I not have a weapon on for a reason? I don't have a shield on. So you can increase your weapon skills for multiple weapons. I don't actually have an axe level. I have a sword and a spear level. Do I not have a sword I can equip? Mace doesn't really work. But yeah, that is how it goes. So, in short, the system can easily be abused to where you just kind of work on yourself. So you don't even have to, per se, if I were to just have my main character attack himself for a little while, and then, like, these enemies are incapable of hurting me because of how strengthened I am. And you saw the axe did 0. My first attack, the spear, did a bunch of damage, and then the axe did 0 because my weapon skill for that is not leveled up. So I can easily do a lot of damage to myself, which will effectively increase... Let's go ahead and end this battle. It will increase my own stats. Ordinarily, you would do this with like a whole party of 4 characters to max out their stats. So, in short, it's very easily possible to max out your entire party stats at the very beginning of the game by simply having them attack each other. You can grind that out if you really want to. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, Tarzan's stamina is increased. So you can just focus on one character, I guess. Was what I was trying to do at one point. I don't remember when I started that. But it is possible to just grind out all your stats because you can just attack yourselves, cast magic on yourselves. You'll increase all your attack stats and your defense stats. Fighting enemies themselves just becomes a chore after that because they just get in the way. Here is a shop. Might as well go over this. You can buy, say I see, I want 3 shields, leather caps, I want 3 of those, clothes, I want 3 of those, leather gloves, I want 3 of those, just like for all these people here. And then you can come in here, equip them all on everybody by hitting optimal, or you can manually, choose what you want to equip. And there's also best armor if you don't want your weapons to get changed for some reason, which is handy. And then, oh wait, I didn't have anything on, so I'm not really selling anything. And then same thing goes for the, oh, this is just an upgraded weapon shop. So yeah, there is better stuff I could have bought, but now I'm not even going to bother. So that's just the weapon shop, or that's just the armor shop, and then over here is like a weapon shop. And these are like basic weapons, and if I suspect there's a better one over here. Yep. So you can buy weapons for your characters. Any character can equip any weapon they want. The only differences are, you know, the different focuses. So if one character has starts with a certain type weapon, you probably want to stick with that to the end of the game, because changing weapon types effectively reduces your attacks to almost nothing, because you have to relearn that weapon for that character. You won't forget other weapons, because you can see that I have a sword and spear attacks up there, weapon learned. So you won't forget anything that you've learned. It's just a matter of maybe wasting your time. Spells are learned from tomes. So I can take the tome and just have any character learn a spell. So like she just learned blind, and then you can learn stun. So you can learn any spell that you have a tome for. Anybody can learn any spell. So basically, what's neat about Final Fantasy II is that you can effectively have your own party completely customized the way you want. They are characters in the story of the game. They have their own defined looks, but as far as abilities go, it's completely open to the player to determine what they want each character to be able to do. You could try to have each character do everything, or you can save time and simply choose each character to do something specific. And they may even be very similar to each other. Like maybe you have 3 of your 4 characters are just fighting types, and then your 4th one does all the magic. I don't know. It's up to you. So that's neat, but the fact that you can simply grind out all of the difficulty at the beginning of the game sort of ruins the challenge of the game. It's more of a, how much time are you willing to put into grinding out the difficulty at the very beginning of the game? Because it's much easier to do than other games, where other RPGs usually have an experience curve, where lower leveled enemies give you lower experience. So the fastest way to level up is actually to progress through the story of the game to get to new areas. Where in this game, it doesn't matter where you are, you can level up yourself just the same anywhere, because you're attacking yourself to gain experience. If you know what I'm saying there. Here is a normal item shop, where you can get all the necessary items to cure various status effects, and to heal hit points, HP. And the Phoenix Downs for the revive. And elixirs, which restore a single character fully, but are super expensive. I can actually buy only 5 before I max out and lose all my money. The story goes that you're part of a resistance, of course, and the Empire is evil, of course. So there were 4 of you at the beginning, and you were defeated. You get defeated in battle at the very beginning of the game. When you hit new game, you just lose a battle, and then you wake up here revived. And the story goes that the princess wants you to go do some stuff to help with the resistance. And then I don't know if I can show it anywhere, but you learn these key terms from people. So when you're talking to certain people, a term will be highlighted in red, and you'll just get a chance to learn that word. I don't know if there's anyone here I can talk to that will acknowledge my use of key terms. I don't think there is. But when you go to certain people, you have the option to use a key term to ask them like about a certain thing. This is also an interesting concept in terms of role-playing, because it's kind of a matter of what do you want to talk to this person about. So this would be a good system in another game. In this game, it's more like you usually just use the newest word that you've gotten to ask someone. Like, you're not going to talk to somebody about something that's already been discussed. Like, these key terms refer to very specific things. So like this goddess's bell, the key to the gates of Kashuan Keep. You're going to ask somebody about this, and they're going to tell you where to go and where to get it. And then you're not going to ask anybody else about this term, because you can only ask certain people about terms. Like, if you could ask any NPC about a certain term, and they could tell you who you need to go talk to really to get an answer for that, like they don't know, but they know who you should talk to, that would be at least a little more interesting, because right now, key terms can only be asked of certain people. Basically, when you reach the person you need to ask that key term to, that's when you have the option to ask a key term. So it would be much more interesting if you could ask anybody that key term, and if those key terms were a little more... If you had key terms that were a little more common use, like right now they really are just low use things. I mean, they're very important things, but they aren't things like, hey, where's the inn, or where's the shop? If you could ask random people things like that, that would be interesting in terms of conversation keeping. And then, of course, you do get a ship at one point. And as far as combat goes, you can still... you can still hold down the button to rapidly select your commands if you already know what you want to do. These characters are never going to hit anybody, it looks like. So yeah, training at something that you've never used before is difficult. Like, these characters just seem to like not be able to hit anything, and this is the beginning area of the game. So there's like no hope in... Oh, Tarzan's X level increased. Oh, it looks like some of their punching skills did increase. Even though they never hit, they at least used them. So hopefully they'll be able to hit more later on as they keep using them. You can, of course, change your formation. Oh, well, actually, you only change front row and back row in this turn. Oh, that's probably why they're missing, is because they're in the back row. In the back row, you can only use, like, the bow and arrow is something that can be used from the back row. More often, you'll want to put characters in the back row if they're, like, magic casters. That way they avoid combat more often. Yeah, there we go. Now I'm hitting. That's why I wasn't hitting before. It's because I was in the back row. That was my problem. Let me see if it even says on the equipment. Flame Lance. I don't know. I could put like a shield on here, mithril shield, so I have that extra defense boost. It doesn't even show a defense boost. In fact, it shows an attack increase by having a two-handed Flame Lance. And of course, random battles do happen at random times. It could be a few steps, or it could be like many steps. You never know. So there's that to it. Dungeons, I've seen this criticism of the game, which is a valid criticism, is that dungeons often have like a room where there's like a tunnel entrance like this, and you just go in, and it sticks you here like in the middle of the room, and then you have to walk out. But in these tiny rooms in the dungeons, the encounter rate is boosted to 11, where 1 or 2 steps you're guaranteed to get into a battle. It's very rare that you'll even be able to get out of that room without getting attacked by monsters. So that's kind of bad. It's just like you open a room that you can't tell what's inside and you just get jumped by monsters. What is the point of this town? Anyway, that is how you play the game, and this game does have a bit more story than the original Final Fantasy. If you watched that review, this game does have some story. You know, there are characters. Ooh, I just got into a fight with a soldier. That guy's dead. Doing some attack. I don't think I'm supposed to fight this guy. Oh, there we go. And of course, if your character is dead at the end of a battle, they will not gain the experience you should gain. This is a setup event of character. I'm not supposed to fight this guy because this town is occupied by the Empire. So I'm really supposed to avoid those guys and just kind of sneak in. But instead, even if I try to fight the guy, because I can, it just won't let me beat him. He'll just still be there. And then the shops are empty right now just because this town, like I said, is controlled by the Empire. So yeah, that is the game. I guess I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, I do need to show off one more thing. So, in addition to this version of the game, which was not included in the original Final Fantasy II, let's go ahead and soft reset here. A new feature to this version of the game is this thing for Final Fantasy II specifically called Soul of Rebirth. What it is it's sort of a new game. You have to use save data that you've already gotten. Basically, it is a new game where you use these 4 characters. They are characters that you obtain in the story of the main original Final Fantasy II. And this is a side story that involves all 4 of them. And as you can see, I believe Soul of Rebirth there is using my save data. This is not game clear. Yeah, you have to use game clear data to proceed. So I don't have game clear data saved here. So that would be to create a new game in the Soul of Rebirth. I'm just going to go ahead and load my game in Soul of Rebirth. So basically it is a side story that involves these 4 characters, like I said. And you sort of... It carries over their stat information that you develop while they're with you in the main game. These 4 characters are all guest characters that are with you at some point in the game, and then they leave you. And then this is a side story where they're all together, and they sort of do their own thing to help you sort of save the world. And then that's pretty much all there is to it. As you can see down at the bottom there, 6 hours. This game is at the end of the game, so it's not a very long extra thing. It's just, you know, just like one short story here, 6-hour story that gets added. There is, of course, a dungeon to go into. And this is sort of the story of it. You can teach them magic, similar to the main game. Ooh. And then, yeah, you can teach them wherever you want. Fleeing is, of course, how you run from battle. And then, wow, looks like I just taught them whatever I want. I do have them all using swords. Swords are kind of the, this goes for the main game as well. The equipment that you want to use is probably swords, because even though, or bare fists, I guess, because the reasons for that is because I don't think using like a staff increases your magic power, so you might as well just have like a cool weapon and then teach your characters magic as well. Using a bow, of course, would allow you to fight from the back row, but if like I said, the system of increasing your stats can be abused so much that you can just make all your characters tanks and be able to take any hits by, you know, practice hitting them yourself. So there's really no motivation to sort of have a very diverse cast. You kind of want them to all at least everyone that you want in the front row to be tanks, and then if you want anyone to be in the back row, just have them use magic and the bow. But then again, you're not going to get a ton of, like, there's not going to be a super strong bow that's better than the sword. Like, I think the Masterman might be the strongest. Can he not wear? Oh yeah, I guess these characters in particular can only use certain weapons. But the main characters that use in the main Final Fantasy II game, they can use any weapon that you want. But these guest characters could only use what was given to them. But yeah, that is pretty much the game. There's no key terms for this side story. Formation is only changing front row, back row. You can't arrange like who's going to be top and who's going to be at the bottom. But yeah, if you have any questions about the game, if you haven't played it before, let me know in the comments below and I'll answer any questions you may have. And then if you have played this game, the Game Boy Advance version in particular, let me know if there's anything I forgot to mention in the review that people should know about. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.